start today with Haryana, where voting in 90 assembly seats is now over. The voter turnout has been 61%, but that's only till 5 p.m. Remember, it was 69% in 2019. Then the polls in Haryana will determine the political fate of a 10-year-old BJP government and Chief Minister Naib Singh Saini. Can the BJP overcome 10 years of anti-incumbency, or will the Congress stage a comeback in Haryana?
Joining us now from across the state, we've got Kamaljeet Singh Sandhu. She heads up our Haryana Bureau. Also with us for a perspective from Jammu and Kashmir in Srinagar, we have Mir Farid. Manjeet Saigal joins us from Ambala. I want to go across to Kamaljeet Sandhu first because the intensity of voting is going to be very consequential. Remember, in about an hour from now, we'll start bringing you the numbers for the state of Haryana. And so far, Kamaljeet, from the reports that you've picked up from across the state, how intense is polling being? Is it looking similar to last time? Is it less than last time? What can you tell us about the intensity of the voting? Kamaljeet? A question to Manjeet Saigal, who's currently in Ambala. Manjeet, from across the state, what are you picking up about the level of interest that voters have in actually having gone out and voted through the day?
Well, Rahul, if we talk about the poll percentage, the statewide poll percentage is just 61%, which is nearly 7% less as compared to 2019. We are in Ambala. Look at the gate. They have been closed. There are no voters now. So there were large queues of voters earlier in the morning, but it was sluggish throughout the day. Three districts, particularly Fatehabad, Yamuna and Palwal, recorded the highest poll percentage, Rahul, that is 67%, and Gurugram has reported the lowest poll percentage, that is 49%. So this is being attributed to the holiday because this was a gazetted holiday followed by Sunday. So the urban voters were sluggish. They did not come out their houses much. Out of the 2 crore voters, only 1 crore voters came out of their homes to poll, to exercise their right to franchise. Urban voters were quite active. There were seen long queues of voters, but still it is less as compared to 2019, Rahul.
You know, that's interesting because, and I'll get Preeti in a moment on that, because Kamaljeet, the general belief has been that when you have reports of anti-incumbency, then that results in high voter turnout. But what we are seeing at the moment is at best what can be called moderate, similar almost to last time, could even end up just about what it was last time, 69%. Are you surprised that people have not come out in larger numbers?
Rajdeep, you're absolutely right. 2019 we saw around 69%, and this time also just about 63% just a while ago. Yamunanagar leading all the way. But yes, what would be disappointing for BJP is the urban votes. And remember, as far as the urban areas, whether it's Gurgaon, whether it's Faridabad, the other areas including Palwal, they have seen lesser voting take place. So this is where the worry could be. And the other is obviously the consolidation of Jat vote versus the non-Jat vote, because BJP would be really relying on that, with the Hooda camp leading the Jat vote at this point of time. The OBC candidate, even Naib Singh Saini, he's been aiming and eyeing the non-Jat vote. Now, there has been an aspect where both the sides have been saying that they're wooing the Chhattis Biradari, and each of them claim to have their particular votes. But definitely, as far as this is concerned, we've known that BJP for quite some time, with Manohar Lal Khattar as a Punjabi Khatri, followed by Naib Singh Saini as a OBC face, they have made a very significant punch right there, and they have been wooing the non-Jats. But this time, the anger is very much there, and what we've seen is, whether it's about the Kisan, the Jawan, the Pahalwan, they're all coming together. And that also, besides, is the 10-year anti-incumbency.
Okay.
So this has been an uphill task for BJP, but they have given a very good fight in several of the locations, including Ladwa, where Chief Minister himself is contesting
Rahul, if I may
against
come in,
Meva Singh of the Congress Party, who's the sitting MLA. So it's a very interesting fight.
Rahul, if I may come in here on how to interpret the voting, turnout. If I would be the BJP, I'd be watching the GT Karnal belt and I would be watching the Ahirwal belt. Now, these were the two areas where the Bharatiya Janata Party got its mammoth share of votes in 2019. And when I look at it, I'd be a little worried for the BJP, and why I say that. Areas like Kurukshetra, areas like Karnal, areas like Faridabad, Gurgaon, was where the BJP had gotten the maximum vote from its urban centers. This is the area right now which is really sluggish in terms of voting. Some centers that I'm looking at have not even gone beyond 40% at 5 o'clock. So I'd be a tad worried, because these are the two areas that the BJP needs to hold on to and then move forward and try to gain in other parts of Haryana. If voting is sluggish here, I'd be worried for the BJP.
Amitabh Tiwari, how does this voting percentage really pan out? If voting percentages are lesser than in 2019, is it to the disadvantage of the incumbent?
See, actually there is no strong correlation, but if you see in 2019, voting percentage was lower and BJP emerged as the single largest party. In 2014, voting percentage was high and BJP emerged as the winner. So, because there was an anti-incumbency vote. I agree with Preeti here that the areas where the turnout is lower is your GT road belt and your Ahirwal and Faridabad belt. And those are the urban centers of the Haryana state also.
Is the BJP fighting with the hope of winning, or are they fighting to ensure that they put up a good fight and they didn't come away decimated?
Well, see, this is where I think BJP for the past few state elections have fallen into a trap that media has been successfully able to project as if they're going to lose a state. And then the morale goes down and they find it really hard to build it up from there. The same has happened with Karnataka also. I mean, they lost the election even before the first vote was polled. However, the election results, the vote share, if you see, was very, very close. And this is what I want to say is that any amount of preemptive discussion around vote share doesn't necessarily project. By the way, this is a 5 p.m. vote share. I believe it is going to go up to 68-69%, which would be same as what we saw in 2019 election. 2014 was an aberration. 2014 state election was really way high polling. There were a lot of hopes and aspirations. That is not there. So it will be, tending back to the mean, which is 68.
It's interesting, Rahul, and I've been trying to, Amitabh possibly can correct me. When I look at those who have survived the 10-year itch and are in power at the moment, there's Gujarat, where the BJP has been in power way back since 1995, and there is Mamata Banerjee in Bengal, who's been in power since 2011. But otherwise, look across the country. You could argue Pema Khandu in Arunachal. Those are smaller states. But among the big states, these are the only two states that come to mind where a government has been in power and elected a third time. So I think somewhere BJP is fighting history this time in Haryana. It's not easy in any state of the country to survive the 10-year itch. And I think, therefore, if they even get a respectable number...
No, but there's a big difference, Rajdeep. The BJP, if it has a 10-year itch, the Congress is a 5-year itch. Which Congress government has got re-elected? Wherever they've been in power in a state, in 5 years they tend to get voted out. One of the things the BJP is saying, hey, at least we've been in power for 10 solid years here.
No, look, Haryana is an interesting exception in a way. You had 10 years of Huda's rule and you had 10 years of the BJP rule. But you're right, the Congress suffers from a 5-year itch. You could argue Congress governments don't get re-elected. I think that's a huge challenge for the Congress. The big advantage they have in Haryana, and Preeti, you please come in, is the fact that the Congress, if they do well, is because it's the default option. You see, what will be interesting to watch in Haryana is what happens to the regional parties. These have been the two parties, JJP now and earlier the INLD, between them have always got 25-30% of the vote. 25% at the very minimal. And that has helped the BJP, because then it meant even at 32-33%, like in 2014, the BJP emerged as the single largest party. So I think Haryana will be a test.
But there is a larger trend towards bipolarity in all states, whether you take a Karnataka.
Sure.
In most states, wherever, even in Madhya Pradesh, the BSP for a while tended to do well. In most states, there is a growing trend towards bipolarity.
But
and
it
that's
hasn't
been
happened,
a trend
Rahul.
in state.
In Haryana, it hasn't happened. The last
so
time
far,
there was a bipolar election.
In
it
recent
happened in Lok Sabha.
elections.
It happened in Lok Sabha, but in recent elections in Vidhan Sabha,
Sure.
it hasn't happened. Let's look at even the BJP.
No, we're talking only about recent elections. Even in recent elections, for example, in a state like Karnataka, earlier it was a triangular election. It's only in recent times that elections have become bipolar.
See,
so it's not as
happening because even at the national level, if you see, how many non-aligned parties are left? Very few. Most of the parties, regional parties, have aligned with either India Bloc or
but
the
can
India
I say
Bloc.
something?
Yeah,
There's something.
Non-aligned
Tell us
parties
what you saw
do
on
not
the
even
ground.
have 20 seats now.
Why is that happening?
That is happening because of the fact that a lot of other smaller parties, leaders from them are hopping onto the bandwagon of the BJP. In the past, if you see 10 years, a lot of leaders from smaller parties have joined the BJP.
And in Haryana, you had Dushyant Chautala.
No,
Do you think that was a factor? When you went to Haryana, JJP and INLD, were they retaining their votes or not?
Well, Haryana is very interesting. Let's look at it. There are over 1,000 candidates in the poll fray. I'd like to add as a side note, just about 82 women. Having said that, that's a topic for a separate discussion. Out of the 1,000 candidates, Rajdeep, if you actually look at it, where the JJP comes into concern, where the INLD comes into concern, most of the candidates are actually looked as Team B of the Bharatiya Janata Party. They are not looked as, Haryana is actually the voters. Look at what happened in 2019. The JJP fought an election which was entirely against the BJP. JJP comes up with 10 MLAs and the JJP allies with the Bharatiya Janata Party. There are people who are actually looking at this, that these regional parties, some of them are actually going to play into the hands of the BJP. Number two, what's interesting in Haryana, which no one's talking about, is the 1,000 candidates, 458 are independents. Can you imagine the number of independents and the truck that some of these independents actually have?
So I think the challenge and the hope for the BJP is that, yes, there's anti-incumbency. Will the anti-incumbency get fractured? If the anti-incumbency gets fractured, then I think the BJP will believe it has a fair chance, even in a state like Haryana. But if it is bipolar, then the BJP's chances reduce to that extent.
Here. When voters don't know how votes getting split can impact potential outcomes, that's how Dushyant Chautala, despite it being an anti-BJP vote, ends up in government. After a while, the concern is that voters can start seeing through these tactics. And the moment that happens, then you've got two poles. You've got the BJP as the central pole of Indian politics, and you've got the India Alliance pole, which can be the Congress in some states and parties like the TMC in others. And that gets established as the new political norm, because these tactics of splitting votes by propping up these third parties, initially maybe voters don't see through it. Ultimately, they can very well see through what's happening.
I think you're right, and this part of the strategy has run its course. You can't have, say, an MIM coming in and obviously going in and denting the Muslim vote. It doesn't happen that well now.
Or the BSP in Uttar Pradesh.
BSP also, and here also. See, in Haryana specifically, if I were to say, BJP only could bank upon strategic maneuvers like this. They didn't have a narrative put in place that well. So the only thing they could do is to perhaps hope part of it and also ensure some of these independents pick up a seat like Maham seat. Over there, you see a HJP, a small party here and there, Kupal Kundu's party here and there, who might be able to consolidate, the anti-Congress vote and just spring up a surprise.
I'll give you an example. Mehem you're talking about.
Yeah.
There is Deepak Hooda, who's standing on a Congress ticket.
The
Can I tell
player.
you? Yes, the Kabaddi player. But can I also tell you there are 18 other Jat independents that are standing up against on that seat.
Look at that,
So
all
it
of
is a
that is
Jat
Jat,
stronghold.
yeah?
It is a
21
73% Jat-dominated constituency. What you've done is technically you've fielded 18 Jat candidates. The vote automatically will get fractured because when it comes down to these smaller constituencies, each of those Jat leaders will take away 5,000 or 6,000 of their own votes.
So I think this is what Congress BJP is banking upon.
You see, the BJP is banking upon that. We don't know whether that will happen.
But
there are times when elections do become bipolar.
I think what we've seen in Uttar Pradesh during the Lok Sabha elections is a very clear evidence of the fact that voters beyond a while can see through these tactics.
So they
work
saw through the
for
JJP.
a while.
So they saw through JJP and look at Devilal's daughters-in-law. They got mere 20,000 votes in a Lok Sabha constituency. That's how JJP's base was completely eroded and decimated.
And this time around,
just in
I'd
Lok
be
Sabha.
surprised. I'd be surprised even in Uchana Kalam, Dushyant Chautala, who's the deputy
He'll
CM.
win,
Many
might not
suggest
win,
might not even
Yes,
be
yes.
able to hold on to his deposit. It's that bad.
Okay,
However, that said, the number of candidates in Haryana this time is lower than last time.
Yeah.
Lower than last time. It used to be 13 per seat. It is 11.5 per
Look,
seat this time.
the
Also
interesting
there's a
thing
difference,
yes.
Rajdeep. The difference is that in 2019, even though there was anti-incumbency built up over 5 years against the Manohar Lal Khattar government, at that time the Congress, because they were shocked and awed by the Lok Sabha results of 2019, simply weren't able to get their act in order in order to be able to fight a meaningful campaign. Here they've gone in thinking they have a chance, and that's how they've approached the election. Last time, they just thought the party was all over the place. They didn't know whether they had a chance. They didn't give the Hoodas the right opportunity. Here they projected a general. The general has some purchase on the ground, and they've all rallied around him.
No, but one of the things that has changed, remember one thing, in Haryana Lok Sabha, the BJP got 58% of the vote in the Lok Sabha elections, huge amount.
Sure.
They came down by 22% between Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha in just the space of 5 months. And what we've seen since 2019 is in general a gap between BJP Lok Sabha and BJP Vidhan Sabha, which is why Haryana is important. Haryana will tell us whether this is a decline that we are witnessing generally. When Mr. Modi is on the ticket, the BJP does disproportionately better. You see, what is the Congress banking on? Because look, if you go by Lok Sabha, BJP is actually 2 seats more than the Congress. BJP was leading in 44 constituencies, Congress was leading in 42. If you divide Lok Sabha into Vidhan Sabha, they both won 5 seats each. The moment you have Vidhan Sabha, is the Modi factor no longer there? And if it is not there, how much of an advantage is that to the opposition? This is not just important for what will happen in Haryana. There's also a big battle coming in Maharashtra and
Rajdeep,
Jharkhand.
where Haryana is concerned, the BJP's hold has been shrinking since 2009. It had 4 seats in 2009. It rose to a dramatic 47 in 2014, largely riding on the Modi wave. 2019, it dramatically shrunk again. You had the JJP coming in because it was short of majority.
Yes,
where the Dalit vote was concerned, where the Jat vote was concerned, they did concede votes to the Congress and to the JJP.
No, but the point I'm making, Preeti,
and look at Lok Sabha,
even in Lok
it's
Sabha,
become smaller.
Even in Lok Sabha, don't forget, BJP purely translating Lok Sabha into Vidhan Sabha was still 2 seats ahead of the Congress. For the fact that there are 5 seats on. My bigger point is this. India votes differently in Vidhan Sabha and Lok Sabha.
Exactly.
Haryana will be a test of that once again.
I want to get a word from Mir Farid. He's joining us from Srinagar. In a while, we'll start showing the numbers for Jammu and Kashmir. The EC prohibits us from starting before 6:30, so we'll respect that. Mir Farid, where are all the principal players in the Jammu and Kashmir election? Are they all sitting and watching India Today at this time, or are they traveling all over the place waiting for the 8th of October?
Well, Rahul, most of them are unwinding now. It has been a grueling campaign, be it the Abdullahs or Muftis. Mehbooba Mufti is in Delhi. Umar Abdullah is also in Delhi. Farooq Abdullah was to Pahalgam where he had a golfing session. Now he's back at Gupkar. And same is the case with Iltija Mufti. So all of them basically right now in a detox phase. They know there is a big challenge coming in because considering that everyone is hinting at fractured numbers, fractured assembly. So they all know that a lot of work needs to be done, though NC Congress is very confident that they'll have the numbers, and especially as far as National Conference sources say, they're banking on Congress to do well in Jammu, because Jammu could be the clincher if Congress manages to basically catch a foothold in the strongholds. So the BJP, especially the 3 districts which comprise main Jammu, then definitely it is going to be a smooth ride for NC Congress. But if that doesn't happen, then people or parties like PDP, independents may have the kingmaker's role. And already you have a PDP thinking on those lines. They're very confident that they will come with good numbers, and those numbers will at the end of the day will be very critical.
Okay. So
if
what
anyone
we'll do
really,
right now
especially
is
the India Bloc, National Conference, Congress are harboring.
the big buzz in Jammu and Kashmir is around.
Farooq Abdullah is the only guy who knows how to live life. He's gone for a golfing session. The others are all worried about elections, exit polls. That's the way to lead life. Have a round of golf.
The BJP will say that is what was wrong with how Jammu and Kashmir was administered. So that's a different way of looking at it.
Yes, but the fact is that he's now almost 90. At 90,
but he was campaigning.
You're entitled for your golf session at 90. And we are now ready to give you the first big numbers of the C voter exit poll. This time on the state of Jammu and Kashmir, a state which is holding assembly polls, remember, after a decade, a state which is now a union territory, a state which is no longer under Article 370, a state that has seen Ladakh move away, a state that has seen tectonic change. And we will start, Rahul, with Jammu, where many believe this election could be won and lost.
I'm not sure about the last part of what you said. Everything else that he's saying is
I
correct.
still think that's probably good. We'll see the numbers.
Jammu is fairly predictable in my view. What happens in Kashmir, frankly, is what will determine what happens in the assembly elections.
Okay, let Rahul and me have our first dispute. The reason I say that is because
nothing will change in Jammu.
No, I'll tell you what.
Kashmir will determine what happens in the end.
No, I'll tell you why. You've got 90 seats on offer.
Sure.
You've got 47 seats in the valley. You've got 43 seats in Jammu, and I include the upper reaches also, which I think will be important. In the last election, you had 37 seats in Jammu, and therefore the gap between Jammu and 45 in the valley. So the valley had slightly more seats than Jammu. Now Jammu has more seats. In my view, for any party to get a clear majority, you're going to need to pick up seats The BJP needs to pick up in the Kashmir Valley, and the Congress NC needs to pick up in Jammu. Otherwise, you can't form
but
the chances
BJP
of the BJP pick.
No,
just a minute.
No, one second.
No, just a minute. You must let me finish.
Okay.
For the BJP to pick up seats in Kashmir Valley is tough.
Yeah.
For the NC Congress, based on past history, you should be able to pick up a few. You picked up about 8, 3 to NC and 5 to Congress in 2014. You need to pick up about 12 to 14 in my view. Because Kashmir has become more competitive. You're right to say that in Jammu, the BJP is the dominant party. But one of the changes, I think, in this election is because Kashmir has become so competitive, you may not sweep the valley. So you need to pick up the seats in Jammu. If you don't pick up the seats in Jammu, who knows, the BJP could become party number 1. By dominating Jammu, I can be party number 1.
Fragmentation of votes in Kashmir, which to my mind will determine what happens. But Rajdeep and I are squabbling. Let's instead just get you the methodology of the poll. Okay, so here it is. C Voter has done this poll. I want to tell our viewers that it has a total sample size of 20,013. Out of these, 13,437 are face-to-face. So there is an element of actually going out, meeting voters across the 90 assembly constituencies on a face-to-face basis, and 6,576 are CATI, which are telephonic. So C-Voter, as you know now, has a continuing weekly tracker. So they have a certain sample set already established in Jammu and Kashmir. To tally the results of what their surveyors found in the face-to-face survey, they then call the data set that they have for Jammu and Kashmir to try and see whether the trend is in line or is it at variance. It gives you some set of confidence. And also, the one change that we've made, Rajdeep, from the Lok Sabha elections is that we're going to, at the end of the projection for Jammu and Kashmir and for Haryana, show our viewers what could happen on the marginal seats. Marginal seats are those seats where the gap between the party in the lead and the runner-up party is less than 5%. And those, frankly, in a post-poll scenario, are very difficult to conclusively establish whether they go for party A or party B. So we'll run some scenario simulation at the end, which will tell you what can happen if most of the marginal seats head towards the incumbent, what will happen if most of the marginal seats head against the incumbent. So we'll try and build in some scenarios, some caveats, as in a cricketing analogy, just put on some helmets and some chest pads so that no matter what happens on the 8th, to some extent, you're covered. Okay, so that being said, let's now get started with Jammu. So all 90 assembly constituencies, 20,000, a fairly robust sample by C-Voter. We'll take you through the results for Jammu. Remember, in Jammu, the BJP hopes to dominate and dominate substantially because this really sets them up for what may happen ultimately. C-Voter predicts that in Jammu, the BJP's vote share is likely to be 36.4. Last time, their vote share, 41.3 is the BJP's current projection. Last time, the vote share was 40.1. So that's as far as the BJP is concerned. The India Alliance in Jammu last time was 35.2%. This time is projected to be 36.4. Those are the two large parties. The one change that's happened, which is PDP, and largely the PDP's vote comes from the upper reaches. So not so much Jammu and Udhampur, but from the upper reaches. So there the PDP had an 11% vote share, which now is expected to fall down to 4.4. So largely speaking, the India bloc's vote percentage has gone up by about 1.2%. The BJP's vote share is up about 1.2%. The big loser in this election, as far as vote share is concerned, is the PDP, whose vote share has come down 6.6%. So that's as far as votes are concerned. Now let's translate votes into seats. Here it is, for the first time on your screen, the C-Voter projections for the seats of Jammu. In Jammu, C-Voter predicts that the India Alliance, which had 8 seats, that's the NC and the Congress, could end up around 13. The BJP, which had 25 seats in the last assembly elections, could end up at 29, with the range being between 27 and 31. The PDP from 3 could come down to 1, and others which had 1 will go down to 0. So that's broadly how the 37 assembly seats from last time, now 43 seats, are likely to pan up, where the BJP, Rajdeep, in very clear lead in the Jammu region.
So I think, the good news for the BJP is that they are now in a position at least to claim bragging rights for Jammu and can possibly hope, depending on how the National Conference in particular does, to even become party number 1. Remember, in 2014, they were party number 2. They got 25 seats, the PDP had 28. And the decline of the PDP has meant that both the NC Congress have grown, as you said, slightly in the Jammu region, as has the BJP. But the question is, remember also that last time there were 37 seats in Jammu, they've come up to 43. So the BJP has proportionately gained from 25 to 29, the midpoint. The NC Congress has not been wiped out. They will hope to be at that upper end. If they can be at the upper end of your range, then they will hope to perhaps be close to a majority, given what could happen in the valley. But for now, the good news for the BJP is that they are clearly party number 1 by a fair distance in the Jammu region, and thereby a certain consistency is there. Lok Sabha also they dominated, and they've dominated Jammu now for a decade. So clearly that's the first factor that stares at you.
I interviewed Ram Madhav a couple of days ago, and Rajat, from the BJP's perspective, for Jammu, their calculations have gotten right. This is what he was expecting, 28 to 32. They're more or less, according to the post-poll study, in the same region. So they got Jammu right. Now can they get Kashmir right? Because you're playing a double game here. Win here, don't let your opponents win in Srinagar.
No, I think if these numbers hold, this would be music to BJP's ears. 30 is a magical psychological number. No party will be able to form government without BJP's support. That's the hope and aspiration with which BJP sort of strategized. And I think their strategy is falling into the right place. If NC Congress are stuck at 10 to 12 seats, I don't see them crossing the majority number on their own, given that there is no way for NC, even in the valley. BJP tried its best in terms of strategic maneuvers over there. They ensured that they do not contest and waste anti-NC Congress vote share in the Kashmir Valley.
Seats, the other
they
seats
ensured that there is enough fragmentation of votes. They have these independents, they have Sajjad Lone, they have all other kinds of players who are trying to directly attack the NC Congress combined.
We'll find out soon. Because
but the tricky part here in this data is the Muslim-dominated Jammu seats. How effectively is BJP able to... So they had 6 new seats because of delimitation. 3 went to the Hindu-dominated regions and 3 went to the Muslim-dominated districts, the Doda-Kishtwar belt. BJP is hoping against all odds to actually win and completely win over these highly polarized seats within the Jammu belt. See, in Jammu, I think the Hindu-dominated Jammu seats are clean win for BJP. All their focus was on
But if I look at these numbers, it clearly shows the Muslim-dominated seats is NC, Congress, PDP.
Not that much.
No, I know, because
So
if you look at the numbers, there are about 18 to 20. There are 18 to 20 Muslim-dominated seats, and there are about 23.
16
So,
31. Muslim-dominated Jammu seats.
So if you see 11 to 15 and add the PDP.
So this is what they hoped. They were hoping to actually go out and win as many seats out of that 16, and then Congress, dent some of the other Hindu-dominated seats. That plan did not work for
that's
the
why
NC. NC Congress, that plan did not work to the level they wanted. They clearly wanted a 15 to 20 number in this exit poll.
Here, BJP's comfort number would have been 35. Because now...
That would have been a complete sweep then.
Because now the ball falls into Kashmir Valley's court. If NC and Congress win 33, anywhere around 30, they could end up very close to the majority, which is 43. Here, which means that despite the number of seats increase in Jammu and the number of seats, the ST reserved seats, BJP perhaps is not getting that traction which it would have imagined, because out of 47, it is at the best winning 31.
No, but there's a different way of looking at it. There were times in the campaign where in Jammu, the BJP's internal polls were showing just between 12 to 15 seats. From there, to have been virtually able to double your tally is a significant achievement as far as this post-poll is concerned. And also it shows, Rajdeep, how, and you speak to people around top NC leaders, and they'll tell you what they think was a shoddy job done by the Congress and how they ran the campaign. They're deeply upset and frustrated with the fact that the Congress argued so hard on the negotiating table and simply didn't put enough gunpowder to try and actually win on the seats that they got in the Jammu
that's
region.
the point. I think that is the critical point. The Congress, you see, when this alliance is forged, the alliance was forged on the basis that the National Conference is party number 1 of the valley. Congress will be the party number 1 or the challenger, at least challenger number 1 to the BJP. Challenger number 1 has clearly not worked. As per this, we don't have the breakup between NC Congress, but it is very clear that the Congress has not been able to lift itself in the Jammu region. And it's very interesting. The Congress had to virtually eventually push Priyanka Gandhi Vadra and say, please come here.
No, but right at the end.
Yeah, you see, but because the Congress typically, and this is their organizational
This
weakness.
is a missed opportunity for Congress.
This is an organizational weakness that the Congress has at the moment in some parts of the country. Jammu is one of them. This is a region where...
No, I don't agree with that, Rajdeep. You speak to NC leaders, they'll tell you the Congress didn't try hard enough. They said, how many times did Rahul Gandhi come here? How often is Priyanka Gandhi Vadra come here?
You see, it's organization also, right? You've got to
So
build your organization.
Organization weak is a much longer term problem. They're saying what you can, let me give you an example. Mallikarjun Kharge went to Jammu. There was a rally about 60 kilometers away. His helicopter didn't take off. He addressed the rally by phone. Okay, so he did a telephonic, and how effective is that, right? Amit Shah went there, similar problem, they couldn't take off. He drove all the way. So look at the intensity of the effort. No matter what happens, the intensity of, you can say, now Khargeji is older than Amit Shah, which is true. But he gave it all he had. The Congress could have tried much harder in Jammu, but the fact is they didn't.
Yes,
and that's something the NC is disappointed about.
Overconfident, because if you spoke to the core team of the Congress, they actually thought post Bharat Jodo they were doing really well. Where Jammu and Kashmir was concerned, the popularity of Rahul Gandhi was so much. Most of them would actually turn around and say that tying up with the NC at the numbers that they did was detrimental to the Congress. So the Congress actually has a very contradictory... They wanted to go solo.
Jammu as well, and they are facing the brunt of it.
They wanted to go solo. The Congress actually wanted to go solo in this.
At the end of the day, we have to recognize, and this is what perhaps this poll will once again reinforce. This is the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Yeah. And we have to recognize that. So I think at the end of the day, the Congress had also no option but to please understand.
Yes.
In the Kashmir Valley, Rahul Gandhi today is extremely popular.
Exactly.
So he's actually able to, in some tough contest, pull the NC forward. So it's very easy to say National Conference could have gone on its own. I don't think it was.
Let me give you
the counter to this. You speak to NC leaders, they'll say, "Arey boss, jahan aapka candidate hai, wahan to taakat lagao." This idea that Rahul Gandhi is extremely popular in the Kashmir Valley and
he's not popular as popular in Jammu.
Anecdotally, it is correct. He does have appeal over there. There's no dispute. But I'm saying there the Congress isn't on those many seats and their seats are not as important. They're saying where you could have put serious ammunition and gunpowder, where your leaders could have gone in campaign. How much effort have you made?
I'll tell you the problem. That's why I said it's Jammu and Kashmir. The very manifesto and reasons that make you popular and electable in Kashmir Valley become your weakness in Jammu. You've got to start right. And you know what actually was very interesting, Rahul, is what number of people will tell you anecdotally. Jammu has actually suffered, some say, because of Article 370's withdrawal in some ways, in a manner that the Valley has not. You see, the Valley has been the complete focus of all the attention of state patronage post Article 370. Your Darbar move also doesn't take place, which used to give you revenues to the Jammu region. The anger is there in Jammu. But are you the right person to capitalize on it? Because you have taken a stand of backing a party which says we will bring back Article 370. How do you see, it is a very difficult, same problem for the BJP. Having withdrawn statehood, how do I go to the people of the valley and tell, no, actually I am with you, I built the roads. People say, no, you've denied us statehood. So I think Jammu and Kashmir is so complex. It's so difficult. Now what happened after the last election, Rahul? PDP, party of the valley, had to tie up with the party of Jammu. And many thought of it as history in the making. And who knows, this election also, eventually you will need some kind of an arrangement that is able to combine a bit of Jammu with a bit of Kashmir.
Okay.
Who can do that is the question.
I've got Yashwant Deshmukh joining us. Yashwant Deshmukh leads Sea Voter. It's his projections that we are running on India Today. And I also want to take you through what Omar Abdullah has said just a few minutes before now. I'm amazed news channels are bothering with exit polls, especially after the fiasco of the recent general elections. I'm ignoring all the noise on channels, social media, WhatsApp, etc. because the only numbers that matter will be revealed on the 8th of October. See, this is a litmus test for post-poll studies, exit polls. So what lessons did you learn from the Lok Sabha elections? Why should anyone believe any of what you're going to say?
Well, to start with, that every election is a litmus test all the time. So obviously, when you fail a litmus test, you fail a litmus test. And then when you pass it, then you pass it. So things that we have learned are the same things that we have been learning for 28 years, Rahul, that vote share is the real thing. Seat share is just an extrapolation of the vote share. It's not just the statutory warning, but this is the factual scientific warning, which I underline every time I start the show. And you can only do some kind of extrapolation according to some formula. Every psephologist, every statistician has a different way of converting those votes to seats. Having said that, when the gap is significantly big between the vote share, then you can easily pick up the winner, at least which direction it is going. In the case of Jammu and Kashmir, it is one state, but it is basically a set of two states. It's as simple as that. Kashmir is chalk and cheese different from the
What about
Jammu.
Pir Panjal, the upper area?
Yeah.
Because many believe that could become a game changer.
That could become a game changer of sort, because I was looking into very carefully the Kashmir Valley data and particularly the seat by seat projections or indications that my team was sending, Rajdeep, and it was interesting to observe that there were actually 3 seats in that range where BJP was close number 2. That was interesting for me.
And what about the higher Jammu
and
areas
higher Jammu side?
Where you had reservations of seats?
So one thing which on the reservation side which I figured out was when we look into the demographic details and data, I mean there was a significant chunk of tribal votes which were going the BJP way, basically a significant Pahadi. Yeah, exactly. And one more interesting thing which I was expecting when we ask people about their generic issues and then we talk about the local issues. And of course, 370 was a local issue.
Let me show our viewers
Yeah.
the response to that question. I haven't run it so far. This is what issue made you vote the way that you did. So let's take you through the responses to that question. And we'll also look at who the preferred chief ministerial choice in the Jammu region is. So let's take you through the issues which drove voter preferences and give you a sense of why voters voted the way that they did. This is the post-poll study for Jammu. Unemployment was the main issue for 37% of respondents, inflation at 10, local roads at 10, electricity supply at 9%. So very, very localized issues driving voter preferences. This is as far as the main issues of Jammu are concerned. Now, let's look at who people in the Jammu region want as the state's next chief minister. This is going to be very interesting to look at. Wow. Omar Abdullah, even in Jammu, is the preferred choice for 39% of the respondents. Ravinder Raina, who's the state BJP head, comes in at 12%. Mehbooba Mufti comes in at 9%. Now, the problem is, Rajdeep, for Mehbooba ji, after that press conference with Rajnath Singh, where they said, you know, why were they there? They weren't getting toffees and chocolates. It's really taken a toll on her image. I mean, she realizes this. We met with her during the campaign trail. She's trying to recover, but, you know, there are certain things that just happen which the leaders find very difficult to recover from.
Look, I think for Mehbooba Mufti, this election is one of relevance. Look at how politics changes in a decade. A decade ago, PDP had become a party, and Mufti Saab particularly made an effort in Jammu, to his credit, to try and sort of make himself more acceptable to Jammu. 10 years later, Mehbooba Mufti today is boxed in as a leader of the valley, and some would say not even the valley, but a particular part of South Kashmir. So I think for Mehbooba Mufti, this election is to at least maintain your relevance in the Kashmir valley. I think they gave up on Jammu, which was not the case 10 years ago. 10 years ago, the reason they got 28 seats is they picked up a few seats.
No, but she'll say she never really wanted that alliance with the BJP. It was her father, Mufti Saab, who wanted the alliance, and she was stuck with it after Mufti Saab was no longer in the scene.
One minute. What were the options? You had an election which was fractured, where the two biggest formations, the BJP and PDP, came together. And that's been the case. NC also, in the past, has taken the support.
No, but Ram Madhav said that in 2014, even the NC was willing to come on board. This is something originally that Devendra Rana, who used to be a close associate of Omar Abdullah, he said it first. He's now in the BJP. But Ram Madhav confirmed the same, that although Omar and Farooq Shah deny it, saying that nothing of the sort happened, but they say that we were very close to being able to ally with the NC as well.
No, so you see, at that particular moment, Mufti Mohammad Saeed was the flavor of the season. You know, he had become party number one of the valley. In that sense, he was the beneficiary of the anti-incumbency that existed against the NC government at the time. So he became a natural, I wouldn't use the word natural, he became an ally. It was an interesting combination. You see, it's very easy today for Mehbooba Mufti to say we should have stayed out. If you had stayed out, you would have been in the opposition. Right? You wanted power.
But Omar Abdullah will look at those numbers and say, hey, 39% in Jammu is not bad. I mean, that 4 out of 10 voters in a region which isn't your stronghold. Remember, in Baramulla, when he fought the Lok Sabha elections, he thought he had a good chance to win, and suddenly
Rahul,
Engineer Rashid came from nowhere and
that
beat
is
him.
because one of the myths that we have is Jammu is Hindu. There is a large Muslim population in large parts of Jammu. You see, we treat Jammu as some kind of a monolith only based on what happens.
Is this
there.
only among Hindus or is it among some Muslims as well?
It just, occurred to me not just because there is a large part of general tendency of analyzing Jammu is that it is Hindu territory and Valley is the Muslim territory, which is not really the case. You know, a large part of Jammu is a Muslim population, number one. And this is why, you know, then we asked the question on the 370 whether, you know, in Jammu, I was expecting almost overwhelming majority would say that, okay, 370 was the issue when they were going to the poll, and big number of that would be saying, oh, I voted for the BJP on that, which was not the case. First of all, hardly about a fourth of Jammu region said 370 was an issue, direct issue. And those who said it was an issue, half of them did not vote for the BJP. So obviously, the big chunk of emotion, separatist emotion, 370 emotion, which were not everybody was happy.
Can I just pause you to say that I think what you heard from Yashwant Deshmukh is one of the very important reasons why we believe in post-poll studies and why these are so important. That 370 is an issue for a very small number of voters. Even amongst those, half didn't actually vote for the BJP, half voted against the BJP because of 370. Those are the kind of insights you can only get through post-poll studies, which is why post-poll studies are important. They have a certain relevance. You shouldn't get carried away. Yes, news channels are also partly guilty for building too much hype around them, but they're important because they throw up very sharp insights which an election on the plate or a Jab We Met simply cannot catch. That is the harsh reality of post-poll studying.